On the surface, you might look at yesterday's score between the Mariners and Blue Jays and think, yeah, this was a pretty decided rout. Probably not that much to write home about in terms of narrative. A plain and simple beatdown. But if you dug a little bit beneath the surface, you'd find one storyline that emerged throughout the contest that actually united both fan bases. Umpire Doug Eddings was absolutely horrible, and per one of the big umpire evaluators in the space, the worst we'd seen since 2022, missing 24 separate calls. From literally the first inning, you could see some pretty big misses, including on what should have been a strike to Randy Arozarena that was so clearly in the zone that Randy himself started walking back to the dugout after taking it. That's not how you want the first batter of the game to go, though I guess perhaps it might have been a makeup pitch, as the very first offering of that night had been called a strike even though it was well inside. And so we went, with not only call after call being missed on both sides, but with no degree of consistency. Up, down, left, right. It was like this iconic Max Scherzer clip where he did the flipping coin motion. There were, however, some that were worse than others, like when this perfectly painted fastball over the low and outside corner was called a ball, despite it being almost fully in the strike zone, allowing Nathan Lucas later on to tie the game at the time. To these back-to-back strike calls with 2 outs in the ninth that were nowhere close. Like I said, there was no bias, just all-around buffoonery. When the night finally ended, Umpire Auditor, an account that does such things on Twitter, evaluated his performance as having missed 24 separate calls, the worst we'd seen since Eddings himself back in 2022. Umpire Scorecards was a bit kinder, only attributing 17 missed calls to him, though this was, notably, still 2 worse than the other horrible performance I called out earlier in the postseason from Alex Tosi. I also found it funny that general baseball fans seemed to discover one of his other notable quirks. The guy will not let catchers throw foul balls back to the pitcher. He refuses, doing it himself every single time. I'm not saying it's right or wrong, but it is certainly interesting. As for the game itself, the Mariners got out to a rip-roaring start, with J. Rod crushing a 3-run home run in the first to set the tone. And while Toronto would battle back to tie this one on that aforementioned Lucas single in the second, that would be their last offensive outburst of the night, being blanked for the next 2 frames before the Mariners pulled ahead on a Jorge Polanco dinger to right center, the switch hitter's seemingly 1,000th clutch hit of the postseason so far. They would tack on 4 more runs before this one was over, with Emerson Hancock retiring George Springer on a double play ball to make a 10-3 victory official, putting the M's firmly in the driver's seat for their first ever World Series appearance, now up 2-0. Alright everybody, if you made it this far, I appreciate you watching, and if you did, consider checking out any of these other videos on your screen right now for other content just like this. Also, if you ever see anything you'd like to see me detail in the video, feel free to reach out to my email, basebpoet@gmail.com, and if I end up using your idea, I'll give you a shout out. Thanks for watching, have a great rest of your day.